Every week we take a look into what life's like inside a different profession. Today our career insider is Harris Chaudhry, a businessman who describes himself as a professional gypsy. He's indeed founded 4 companies, each in completely diverse industries, including a tech venture launching this month. Its app is going to connect home-based cooking with home-based diners globally. So quite the ambition on that one. Well, through all the companies, no less, he retains a 50% stake, divides his time between each of them. Who said trying to juggle more than 2 balls in the air and you'll end up on your back. Well, Harris is with me now. Warm welcome into the show. Just take me back to sort of even childhood briefly, because the idea of knowing your struggle to kind of get into quite a vulnerable place, but then triumph is interesting. I mean, go back to all of that. What was the early years like? What were they like?
Look, I actually come from a large family growing in a developing country, Pakistan. So when you are one of 7 in the siblings, and you and I happen to be smack bang in the middle, so I think you can probably well imagine that even though from the outside objective standards, people would expect, that a person who has done well. My dad worked with World Bank, but when you're 7, you're studying in private institutions around the world. There's only so much that goes around. So being an impressionable child, you've obviously been to different cities as part of moving with the family and all. And you study in different schools and all. One of the key element of growth was looking at people that we knew and looking at how they have prospered and how quickly. And back then, I think the technology was taking a paradigm shift where the wealth that could be created didn't really take as long as traditionally it would have back in my parents' days. And that's where the journey started.
And yet these are very different industries that you've delved into. So what gave you the confidence that you had the smarts to intimately know where things were going, never mind how they started?
I think I just got into it. I delved into it. I jumped into the deeper end. You always run with the conviction of your belief, and I think for me it was having worked in different industries as an employee, sector agnostic, living out of a suitcase, traveling the world, creating wealth and shareholder value for other companies. I think it was a time I thought it was right, having put plenty of runs on the board for others. So in 2011, I decided I'm going to go and jump at the deeper end. The role that the technology has played in accessing elements of the technology which would create scalable wealth and quickly, I thought I could create multiple businesses looking at the trends. So the first and the most notable was the InnovaDerma, which is listed on London Stock Exchange and dual listed on Euronext Paris. We created that, and effectively I went with the conviction in ensuring that we are doing what others thought was not possible in creating a product and giving it retail presence. So
give me an example of that just briefly. I mean, you're talking about bringing beauty brands back from the dead. Just pin that down to one thing that people can identify with.
Sure. Look, one example would be a brand called Skinny Tan. Now, Skinny Tan got into Dragon's Den, which is like Shark Tank in Australia and UK by BBC. It was one of the most successful episodes ever. All dragons wanted to invest. So the founders of Skinny Tan, which was the world's first self-tanning brand that contoured your skin as well as provided tanning, the sales went really high, and then in 6 months, 12 months time, they actually came down because the management and the founders were not able to scale and monetize the value the brand had. So we looked at it. Company was almost insolvent. We picked it up, and within 6 months, through our ability to recognize the growth of the Facebook and Instagram, the social media platform, the revenues went up 15 times in 6 months, and we created such a massive momentum in terms of the clients in sales that within 6 months we were in one of the largest pharmacy chains. We became #1 brand, and it is now one of the fastest growing brand globally in its space.
Because it's very interesting that it almost defies conventional wisdom that things on social media have the attention span of a gnat, and then there'll be something, to excite and to divert your attention, and you move on. So you're saying you actually got the traction, and then that enabled you to get leverage beyond that into pharmacies, etc.
Yeah, I think you're right. But then when there are billions of gnats on social media, you are basically obviously looking at scaling the shortness of the attention and giving them the message which is going to help scale that specific brand. So we've done that very successfully. And we created over 300,000 followers in 2 years and over 200,000 direct clients. And then we're expanding it in 9 countries in 3 continents.
Tell me that you're going to China, or are you going to be a naysayer? Because that's really where we seem consistently, as a corporate story runs, to stumble on that story.
Yeah, sure. Look, China is on everyone's radar. We made a decision that we are not going to go into China until the Chinese government changes its policies that every product would be tested on animals before it's allowed to be sold in China. So we are in Korea, we are expanding to Japan, we have brought some new products going to Thailand, Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, very much on the radar. The world is a very large place. Granted, China is one of the largest emerging markets, not for InnovaDerma, but certainly for Indulge, which is one of the fastest growing companies in food and wine space that I've created.
So if Jack Ma came to you and said, I want this on Alibaba, you would say no to Jack?
We would say no to Jack, absolutely. And I'll tell you the reason, and it's not really a cliche statement. The brand, there's enough demand in the market. There is enough scalability there. There are enough retailers. There is significant growth at this stage where we believe that we've got a very, very long way to go to drastically change the ethos of the company, which is that none of the products that we actually bring to the market would be tested on animals. And until that happens, we would keep going.
I'm amazed that you've kept going in the studio for the number of minutes you have, because you're notoriously impatient, even more so than I am. So to have sat tight is quite the achievement. Well done.
You should be looking at my legs.
Oh, I can see them all right. Yes, they're going like the clappers. Thank you, Harris. We'll talk to you soon. It's been a pleasure to have you on. Harris Chaudhry, their founder and executive chair of InnovaDerma, no less.
Great to be